I crossed 400 light-years of void. I hunted for 87 standard years. I broke every law of my people, and for what? Not for a soldier. Not for a king. I did it for the ghost of one. He's down there on that little blue world. He doesn't know who he is. He doesn't remember me. He's 18 now. I know he is much younger than me, and strangest of all, he is a human. But none of that matters. He is my Kaelen. He was born again for me, just for me. And he's the only thing that's left of the man I lost 100 years ago. My name is Commander Trinity, and I am the only thing standing between him and the Arbiters who are coming to erase his soul. Before we dive into this story, I want to welcome you to Dystopian HFY Stories. If you love stories about humanity, resilience, and the future, do me a favor and hit that like button. Share this with a friend, and make sure you're subscribed so you never miss a new story. Your support helps this channel reach a larger audience, and I can't tell you how much it means. Also, let me know in the comments where in the world you're watching from. I love to see how global our community is. Alright, let's begin the story. Joy was not special. He knew this as a fundamental truth. He was 18 years old, lived in the sprawling, beige suburb of Westview, and was on track to get a C+ in calculus, which would probably kill his chances of getting into the state university. His life was a repeating loop of school, homework, and his part-time shift at The Grind, a local coffee shop that always smelled faintly of burnt beans and cleaning fluid. He was quiet, introverted, and spent most of his free time sketching in a worn-out notebook, drawing things he couldn't explain, complex, spiraling symbols that looked like galaxies and faces of people he'd never met. But for the last 6 months the loop had started to glitch. It started with the dreams. They were always the same. He was standing on the bridge of some vast, impossible ship, looking out at a swirling, blood-red nebula. He wasn't scared. He was resigned. And he was waiting for someone. When he woke up, his pillow would be damp, and his chest would ache with a loneliness so profound, so ancient, that it felt like it had been carved into his bones. He told himself it was just stress. Then came the déjà vu. He'd be handing a customer their latte, and for a split second, the middle-aged woman in a business suit would look at him with the cold, assessing eyes of a creature with too many teeth. He would blink and she'd just be a normal, tired person. He'd be walking home, and the familiar crack in the sidewalk would feel wrong, as if the entire world was a poorly made copy of a thing he'd once known. And then there was the feeling. The new, terrifying feeling that had settled in over the last 3 days. The feeling of being watched. It was the prickle on the back of his neck, the sensation of a predator's gaze. He'd spin around, expecting to see a car or a person or anything. But there was never anything there. Just the empty street, the rustling trees, and the oppressive, suffocating normalcy of it all. He was just joy. He wasn't special. So why did it feel like he was being hunted? Tonight that feeling was worse than ever. His shift had ended at 9 p.m., and the walk home was cold, the air sharp with the coming winter. He pulled his thin jacket tighter, his backpack heavy with textbooks he hadn't opened. He decided to take the shortcut, a narrow, dimly lit alley that ran between the back of a laundromat and a hardware store. It was stupid, he knew that. But he wanted to be home. He was halfway through the alley when he heard it. A footstep. Not a scuff on the pavement, not the click of a shoe. It was a heavy, measured thud followed by a faint, metallic shing. Like something heavy and sharp was being dragged. Joy froze. His heart hammered against his ribs. "Hello?" he called out, his voice thin. No answer. Just the distant hum of traffic. He was just being paranoid. He was just a stressed-out kid. He took another step and the sound came again, closer this time. Thud. Shing. He spun around. The alley was empty. Just dumpsters, graffiti, and shadows. But the shadows seemed darker than they should be, pooling in the corners like spilled ink. He backed away, his breath fogging in the air. "I'm just going home," he said to no one. He turned to run. And a figure stepped out from the deepest shadow, blocking his path. It was tall, impossibly thin, and wore what looked like a perfectly tailored black suit. But its face was all wrong. It was too symmetrical, too smooth, like a porcelain mask. And its eyes were just pits of polished, reflective obsidian. Joy didn't scream. He couldn't. His lungs had locked up. The figure tilted its head, a motion that was too precise, too unnatural. And when it spoke, the voice was not a voice. It was a chorus of cold, whispering sounds, all layered on top of each other. "The anim," it hissed, the sound seeming to come from everywhere at once. "It is corrupt. The vessel is impure." The figure, the thing, slowly raised its hand. It was not a hand. It was a cluster of long metallic blades fused to its wrist. The heresy must be cleansed. The thing took a step, and the thudshing sound echoed in the narrow space. Joy's world compressed to a single terrifying point. He was going to die here. In an alley. And no one would ever know why. The creature in the suit, the purifier, took another slow, deliberate step. Its movements were unnervingly fluid, like a snake uncoiling. Joy was paralyzed, his back pressed hard against the cold, damp brick of the hardware store. His mind was screaming, "Run!" but his legs were frozen, useless. He couldn't process what he was seeing. This wasn't possible. This was Westview. This was just a stupid alley. Things like this didn't happen here. The echo of Kaelen will be silenced, the purifier hissed, its voice a razor-sharp whisper that cut through the night air. It raised its bladed hand, the polished metal glinting in the single, flickering overhead light. It was aiming for his chest. Joy squeezed his eyes shut, a pathetic, strangled sound caught in his throat. Boom. A sound like a gas main exploding and a lightning strike happening at the same time shattered the night. A column of brilliant, blinding blue-white light slammed into the pavement directly between Joy and the purifier. The concussive force threw Joy off his feet, his head smacking hard against the brick. He collapsed onto a pile of discarded cardboard, his vision swimming, his ears ringing. He tasted copper. Through the spots in his vision he saw a second figure. She was standing in the center of a smoking, blackened crater in the asphalt. She hadn't walked in. She had simply arrived. She was tall, but unlike the purifier, she seemed solid. She wore a sleek, dark gray uniform that seemed to ripple, as if it were made of liquid shadow. Her hair was pulled back in a severe, functional braid. She didn't look at Joy. Her entire focus was on the purifier. "Arbiter's dog," she said, and her voice was human. It was low, controlled, and filled with a cold, compressed fury. "You are off limits on this world." The purifier straightened, its suit seeming to bristle. It shifted its attention from Joy to the newcomer. "Commander Trinity," it hissed. "The heresy seeker. Your quest is unlawful. The Anam is forfeit. Stand aside." "That is not going to happen," Trinity said. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She just moved. She didn't run. She didn't charge. In one instant she was standing in the crater. In the next she was on top of the purifier, her motion so fast it left a blur. The sound of their fight was unlike anything Joy had ever heard. It wasn't the sound of fists. It was the thwack of high-density impacts, the scream of energy meeting a barrier, the shriek of metal on metal. Trinity fought with a precise, liquid brutality. Every move was a strike, a block, a throw. The purifier was just as fast, its blades clashing against energy fields that seemed to shimmer into existence around Trinity's hands and feet. This wasn't a brawl. It was a high-speed, lethal ballet. But Joy saw something the purifier didn't. Trinity was being pushed back. Slowly but surely. For every one of her strikes, the purifier had a counter. Was a machine. She was just a person. A very, very fast person. The purifier slammed Trinity into the brick wall, a move so powerful it cracked the mortar. "Your sentiment is a flaw, Commander," it hissed. "Kaelen is gone. This is just an infestation." And then the machine made a mistake. It assumed the fight was over. It turned its attention back to the infestation. It raised its bladed hand, aiming at Joy, who was still trying to get his bearings. Trinity screamed, and oh! She was trapped, pinned by some invisible high-gravity force. She couldn't intervene. The purifier lunged toward Joy. Joy's frozen limbs finally broke free. There was no thought. No plan. Only pure, unadulterated human panic. This was the instinct of a persistence hunter, the ancestor who threw a rock at a cave bear. He couldn't run. He couldn't fight. So he acted. He ripped his heavy textbook-filled backpack off his shoulders and, with a yell, he threw it. It was a stupid, pathetic human gesture. The backpack, weighed down by calculus. A modern approach sailed through the air and struck the purifier square in the chest, just as it was about to fire a particle beam from its open palm. The impact was just a backpack. But it was analog. It was primitive. It was unexpected. The purifier's targeting system, designed to track energy signatures and high-velocity projectiles, didn't even register it until the physical weight threw its center of balance off by a single, crucial millimeter. The energy beam fired, not at Joy's heart, but at the dumpster beside him, which vaporized in a silent flash of light. The purifier actually stumbled. That tiny, chaotic human action had broken its perfect, lethal rhythm. And that was all Trinity needed. The gravity pin released. In a flash she was free. She slammed a small metallic disc onto the purifier's back. The creature seized, every joint locking as a blue-white energy field crackled over its body. Phase lock, Trinity grunted. Won't hold for long. She didn't hesitate. She grabbed Joy by the front of his jacket, hauling him to his feet. He yelped, his legs still like jelly. What? Oh, what are you? They're coming, she yelled, ignoring his questions. She pulled him close, her arm clamping around his chest like a steel band. She was holding a small silver device in her other hand. This is going to be unpleasant. Hold your breath. What's going on? Trinity pressed the button. The world did not fade. It tore. The alley, the dumpsters, the sounds of the city, they didn't disappear. They were ripped apart, dissolving into a blinding, deafening tunnel of non-Euclidean light and screaming, impossible colors. Joy felt his stomach try to climb out of his throat. The last thing he heard before his senses gave out was the sound of the purifier's phase lock breaking, and a shriek of pure, mechanical rage. The world snapped back into existence with a violent, bone-jarring lurch. Joy fell to his knees, his entire body heaving. The smell of ozone and burnt dust filled his lungs, and he was violently sick on the cold, concrete floor. The transition was nothing like in the movies. It was agony. It felt like his atoms had been pulled apart and jammed back together in the wrong order. He was trembling so hard he could barely stay upright. Breathe, a voice commanded. It was Trinity. She was standing a few feet away, already scanning their new surroundings, her posture perfectly erect. She didn't look sick at all. The first fold is always the hardest on a new physiology. Joy spat, trying to get the coppery taste of the fold out of his mouth. Where are we? He croaked, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. He looked around. They were in a large, circular, concrete room. It was stark, bare, and smelled of dust and old machinery. A few high-tech, glowing consoles were set against one wall, looking completely out of place, but the rest of the space looked old, like a Cold War-era bunker. A single, bare bulb hung from the ceiling, casting harsh shadows. A safe house, Trinity said, her voice echoing slightly. Shielded. They can't track our energy signature here. We have maybe 12 hours. If we're lucky. Joy finally got to his feet, his legs still shaking. He leaned against a support pillar. And then the adrenaline faded, and the terror, confusion, and rage all came flooding in at once. 12 hours? What are you talking about? Who was that thing? What the hell is an ANAM? And why did it call me? Why did it use that name? Trinity turned to face him fully. And for the first time Joy got a good look at her. She was beautiful but not in a human way. Her features were too sharp, her eyes a shade of violet that was too intense. Her face was a mask of cold, military professionalism, but her eyes looked 1,000 years old. And they were filled with a pain so deep it made Joy's own phantom loneliness feel like a pinprick. My name, she said, her voice tight, is Commander Trinity. I was a commander in the Sidonian Defense Fleet. Sidonian? Joy said, his voice cracking. Like, from Mars? A flicker of something, amusement? Annoyance? Crossed her face. No, not from Mars. From Sidonia in the Alkoth system. 400 light-years from here. Joy just stared. Alien, he whispered. You're an alien. And that thing in the alley. A purifier, she said, nodding. An enforcer for the Arbiters' concordance. A dogmatic, galaxy-spanning order. And they want me? Joy's voice rose to a near shout. What? What did I do? I'm just Joy. I work at a coffee shop. I'm failing calculus, for God's sake. I am nobody. Trinity's professional mask cracked. Her face softened, and the grief in her eyes was suddenly overwhelming. She took a step toward him and he flinched back. You are not nobody, Joy, she said, her voice suddenly gentle. You are an impossibility. You are a miracle. And you are the most dangerous person in this galaxy. Stop talking in riddles. Joy yelled. We don't have souls, Joy. Not like your religions describe. We have an ANAM. A core energy, an echo of our consciousness that is left behind. When we die, our ANAM rejoins the great stream, the cosmic energy that binds the universe. It is recycled. It is supposed to be pure. She paused, her gaze unfocused, as if she was looking at something 100 years in the past. But his was different. Whose? Joy whispered, his anger fading into a cold dread. High strategist Kaelen, Trinity said. Her voice was barely audible. My bonded partner. The greatest military mind of our age. And the man I loved. He died 100 standard years ago in the Battle of the Crimson Nebula. She closed her eyes. His ANAM was supposed to fade, to rejoin the stream. But it didn't. He was too strong. Too stubborn. A small, sad smile touched her lips. He refused to leave me. His Anem fled the battle. It was damaged, bleeding energy, but it fled. It crossed the void looking for a place to rest. A place to hide. I don't understand, Joy said, though a sickening, impossible premonition was already forming in his stomach. Trinity's violet eyes snapped open, locking onto his. It hid itself, Joy. In the most unexpected, chaotic, primitive place in the galaxy. A world so loud and messy that the Arbiters would never think to look. It hid itself inside a new life. A human life. Joy's back hit the concrete wall. No. No, don't. I've been searching for a century, Trinity continued, her voice breaking. Searching for his energy signature. I followed its trail light year by light year. And it led me here. To you. Joy was shaking his head. No. You're insane. I'm not. I am not your dead boyfriend. Joy's words struck her like a physical blow. The pained, thousand-year-old grief flashed in her eyes before she forced the commander back into place. Her face hardened. You're right, she said, her voice flat. You are not Kaelen. Kaelen is gone. I see that now. You are Joy. A human. An 18-year-old boy. But the Arbiters don't see Joy. They see a heresy. A contamination of a pure Anem. And they will not stop until they have purified Kaelen's soul from your impure human body. And their purification is not a gentle process. Joy's mind was a maelstrom. He wanted to run, but where? He was in a concrete box with an alien soldier who had just told him he was the reincarnated, galaxy-spanning heresy version of her dead lover. He pressed himself against the wall, trying to find some anchor in reality. This is a psychotic break, he muttered. I'm in a hospital. I ate a bad something. This isn't real. Trinity ignored his breakdown. She moved to one of the high-tech consoles, her fingers flying across a holographic interface that shimmered into life. The Arbiters are a religion, Joy. A religion of purity. They believe the great stream, the flow of all cosmic life energy, must remain untainted. They believe that each species, each Anem has its place. When a Sidonian Anem, a warrior's Anem, dies, it is supposed to return to the stream to be reborn as a Sidonian. But Kaelen's soul was so powerful, and his bond to me so strong that he refused. She turned, her face illuminated by the console's blue light. His soul didn't just reincarnate, Joy. It infected. It latched onto the first available vessel it could find that had the emotional resonance to hold it. An unborn human child. Infected. Joy repeated, the word feeling vile. That's how they see it, Trinity said. To the Arbiters, a soul of Kaelen's magnitude, a soul of logic, honor, and strategic purity, bonding with a primitive, chaotic, emotional species like a human, it is the ultimate blasphemy. They believe your very existence could unbalance the galaxy. That your human emotions are corrupting Kaelen's pure Anem. So those dreams, Joy whispered. The loneliness, the drawings. Echoes, Trinity said, nodding. Glitches. Kaelen's memories, his essence trying to push through your human consciousness. And it's those very glitches that the Arbiters finally used to find you. Your soul was broadcasting a signal they couldn't ignore. She looked at him with a new, clinical intensity. They are not here to capture you. They are not here to rescue Kaelen's soul. They are here to erase the corruption. They will destroy your body, your mind, and the Anem itself. To them you are a plague. Joy slid down the wall, his head in his hands. I still don't. I can't. He looked up, his eyes pleading. I don't believe you. I can't believe you. This is too much. Trinity's gaze was hard, but not unkind. I know. You are human. You require proof. Your species is so tangible. She sighed, a weary, ancient sound. She reached into a small pouch on her uniform's belt. She was a soldier. She was prepared for everything. But as her fingers closed around the object, her hand trembled. She pulled it out. It was a small metallic object, shaped like a teardrop, hanging on a simple, dark chain. It looked like a locket, but it was made of a dull, gray metal that seemed to drink the light. This is an echo stone, Trinity said, her voice dropping to a whisper. It was bonded to Kaelen's Anem, and to mine. It's how soul-bonded partners can find each other, even across a battlefield. It pulses with the Anem's light. She held it out. The stone was dull, lifeless, and cold. It went dark the day he died. I have carried it for a century. I have tried, she choked, a single hot tear finally escaping, to make it glow. I have poured my energy into it. I have screamed at it. I have begged it. Nothing. She opened her hand, offering the locket to him. I came here to find the NM. To retrieve it. To put it to rest at the Crimson Nebula, as is our way. I thought I was hunting a thing. An echo. I didn't. She looked at him, her eyes searching his. Expect to find you. A person. A boy. Joy stared at the dull stone. He was terrified. He was terrified to touch it. And he was terrified not to. If he touched it and nothing happened, she was crazy. If he touched it and something did, his life was over. His old, boring, safe life. Please, she whispered. Slowly, his hand shaking so badly he could barely control it, Joy reached out. His fingers, greasy from the alley floor and calloused from his part-time job, brushed against the cold, dead metal. The instant his skin made contact, the echo stone exploded. Not with a sound. With light. A brilliant, warm, golden light flooded the bunker, chasing every shadow from the room. It was brighter than the single bare bulb. It was brighter than the sun. And it was warm. The warmth spread from his fingertips, up his arm and into his chest. It felt like coming home. It felt like the end of the loneliness. Trinity let out a sound, a sob, a gasp, a prayer, and collapsed against the console, her shoulders shaking. Joy stared at the glowing stone in his hand. The warmth was spreading and with it, fragments, images, feelings, fire, the color red, the smell of ozone, a woman's violet eyes. He looked at Trinity, his own eyes wide with a terror that was being replaced by a new, impossible understanding. The Crimson Nebula, he said, his voice a strange mix of his own and a deeper, stronger echo. I think I remember fire. Trinity's head snapped up, her face pale, her eyes wide with a terrible, dawning hope. What did you say? Joy was clutching the echo stone. It was pulsing in his hand, a steady, warm heartbeat. He wasn't just remembering fire, he was feeling it. He was feeling the rumble of a dying ship's engines. The cold efficiency of a tactical display. And off. A wave of love so powerful, so absolute, it almost buckled his knees. Tell me, Joy said, and his voice was steadier now. He wasn't asking as Joy. He was demanding as something else. Tell me how he died. Trinity straightened, wiping the tears from her face. She was a soldier again, but her voice was raw. She was now a witness, giving a report. The Battle of the Crimson Nebula was a trap, she began, her gaze going distant. The Arbiters had been hunting us for weeks. They called Kaelen a rationalist heretic, because he argued for cooperation. With other species. Including yours actually. He found humanity fascinating. He said you were beautifully, tragically chaotic. The Arbiters saw that as a taint. They cornered his fleet, our fleet, in the nebula. She paced the concrete floor, her boots silent. It was a last stand. Kaelen's flagship, the Valorous Heart, was holding the line, trying to punch a hole for the civilian transports to escape. The Arbiters' purification fleet was overwhelming. They didn't fight to win. They fought to cleanse. They were zealots. The echo stone in Joy's hand grew warmer. He could feel Kaelen's emotions as Trinity spoke. The terrible, crushing responsibility of a commander. His ship was crippled, Trinity continued, her voice tightening. The core was critical. He sent me away. He ordered my ship, the Andromeda, to protect the fleet's escape vector. A lie. A noble, stupid lie. The vector was already clear. He was just saving me. Joy's hand clenched around the stone. He could feel the lie. He could feel Kaelen's agony at giving the order. The desperation to know she was safe. I disobeyed, Trinity whispered, a confession she had clearly held for 100 years. I told my crew to follow the order, but I stayed. I cloaked my ship in the nebula's shadow. I had to watch. Her voice broke. The Valorous Heart was just him. He had ordered the crew to the escape pods. He was alone on the bridge. The Purifier's flagship came alongside. They hailed him. They offered him absolution if he would recant and execute himself. And what did he do? Joy asked, his voice a low growl that didn't sound like his own. He laughed, Trinity said, a raw, broken sound. He laughed. And he opened a channel to their ship. And he detonated the Valorous Heart's drive core. The echo stone in Joy's hand flared, and he saw it. Not a memory but a feeling. The blinding, purifying white light. The calm pressure of his Kaelen's hand on the detonation key. The acceptance. The peace. And the regret. Joy was clutching his head, tears he couldn't explain streaming down his face. He was feeling Kaelen's last thought. It wasn't about the battle. It wasn't about the Arbiters. It was about her. His one regret. that she was watching. You weren't supposed to watch, Joy whispered, his voice thick with an emotion that was not his. I wanted you to run. Trinity froze. Her blood ran cold. Her eyes, wide with shock, locked onto his. It was Joy's voice, but those were Kaelen's exact, final words. The words he had telepathically sent to her echo stone in the second before his ANM tore free. At that exact, impossible moment, a high-pitched alarm, a sound of pure technological panic, screamed from Trinity's console. The echo stone in Joy's hand suddenly turned ice-cold, the light extinguishing in an instant. They're here, Trinity snarled. The grief was gone, vaporized by a soldier's adrenaline. She ripped a weapon, a sleek, silver-white pistol, from a hidden holster. The safe house is compromised. Heavy, metallic thuds echoed from above, vibrating through the concrete. It wasn't a knock. It was a tactical, percussive force. They were breaching the main hatch. How? Joy stammered, his body still vibrating with Kaelen's final echo. You said this place was shielded. The echo stone. Trinity said, her face grim. When it lit up, it was a flare. A beacon of Kaelen's ANM so bright it must have burned through the shielding. They didn't track us. They heard him. I was a fool. She slammed her fist against the console. There was no time for regret. The thuds became a grinding, tearing sound. The main hatch, a 3-foot-thick disc of reinforced steel, was beginning to buckle. Trinity went into commander mode. Her motions were sharp, economical. She tossed Joy a small silver packet. It's a low-level energy shield. Press the center. It'll give you maybe 10 seconds against a particle beam. Better than nothing. She unslung a longer, heavier rifle from a weapons locker. They are breaching the primary hatch. Their shields are superior. Their weapons are cleaner. I will engage. She looked at the bunker's single reinforced door. I'll overload my fold drive. The explosion will be significant. It will take them and this entire bunker out. It will buy you 30 seconds. She pointed to a rusted iron grate in the far wall. That is an old emergency shaft. It leads up. To the desert. You must run. You must not stop. Joy stared at her. That's a suicide plan. It is a soldier's plan, Trinity corrected him, her voice cold. It's a sound, tactical sacrifice. It's what he did, isn't it? Joy said, his voice shaking. It's what Kaelen did. He died to save you. Now you're going to die to save his ghost. Trinity flinched, but her gaze was hard. The ANM must survive. That is my mission. No, Joy said. The word was quiet, but it cut through the room. Trinity turned. No. That's a warrior's plan, Joy said, his mind racing. The echoes of Kaelen, the cold logic, the tactical genius, were warring with the panicked, desperate humanity of Joy. And in that war, a new hybrid thought was born. We need a survivor's plan. Kaelen's plan failed. He's dead. The words were brutal. Trinity reeled as if he'd struck her. You said they're clean, Joy said, his eyes darting around the bunker. He wasn't seeing a high-tech safe house. He was seeing what it really was, an old, repurposed Cold War-era fallout shelter. It was primitive. It was human. You said their weapons are clean, their shields are superior. They're expecting a clean fight, right? A fight like the one in the alley. Your point, Joy? Trinity said as the hatch groaned, a visible dent appearing in its center. Joy pointed not at the high-tech console, but at a huge, greasy, rust-covered hunk of metal in the corner. What's that? A generator. Diesel? Trinity said with disgust. Primitive. I couldn't get it to interface with the core systems. Exactly, Joy said, a wild, dangerous glint in his eyes. He was remembering his earth science class. He was remembering what humans were. It's primitive. It's toxic. You see a bunker. I see a concrete box with one door in and one tiny vent shaft out. They're coming through that door. He ran to the generator and grabbed a nearby half-full jerry can. Your weapons are all energy. Clean. They're designed for space, for ships. What happens when their pure systems meet? This. He unhooked a ventilation duct. We don't fight them. We suffocate them. We flood the chamber with thick, black, carbon monoxide-filled diesel exhaust. It's chaotic. It's filthy. Their sensors will be blind. Their shields won't stop soot. They're aliens, Trinity. They won't even know what's killing them until their lungs fill with our primitive crap. The main hatch screamed as a plasma torch began cutting the hinges. Trinity stared at him. This was not Kaelen. Kaelen was a strategist of honor and clean energy vectors. This was horrifying. It was brilliant, They call us chaotic and primitive, Joy said, his voice hard. They call me an infestation. Let's be. Trinity looked at the buckling door. She looked at the generator. And she looked at Joy. A slow, dangerous smile, a truly human smile, spread across her face. Show me how. Trinity didn't hesitate. The air circulator, she commanded, pointing to a panel. It's slaved to the main door. When it opens, the vents will try to clear the air. We have to reverse the flow. Now. Joy, his hands slick with a mix of diesel and sweat, got to work on the generator. It was an old, stubborn, mechanical beast. He had to yank the ripcord again and again. It was a primitive problem. Meanwhile, Trinity was at the panel, her fingers flying, rewiring a system she had previously ignored. The plasma cutter was almost through the last hinge. Joy. Now, she yelled. Joy gave one last desperate pull. The generator sputtered, coughed, and then roared to life with a deafening, defiant human sound, a sound of controlled internal explosions. A cloud of thick, black, noxious smoke billowed out. It's working. Joy yelled, his voice hoarse over the din. The vents are reversed. Trinity confirmed. She grabbed Joy and dragged him behind the generator. It's our only cover. Hold your breath. Use the shield. With a sound like a gunshot, the main hatch blew inward, crashing to the floor. 3 figures stood silhouetted in the sparks and smoke. The purifier from the alley, Mace, was in the center. He was flanked by 2 others, sleeker, faster-looking models. They entered the room in a perfect triangular assault formation. And they were met with a wall of black, choking, toxic smoke. Contaminants. A known. Atmospheric failure. One of the new purifiers choked, its synthesized voice glitching. Their sensors are blind, Trinity whispered to Joy. Their shields are flickering. They're trying to compensate for the temperature and particulates. They've never seen smoke before. Purge the chamber. Mace, the head purifier, commanded. He fired his weapon, but the beam was diffused by the thick, carbon-filled air, scattering harmlessly. They were blind. Now, Trinity said. She rose from behind the generator, a phantom in the smog. She was no longer a soldier fighting a clean war. She was a predator. The echo stone, which Joy still held, began to pulse again, a dim, golden light. But Trinity didn't need to see. She could feel them. She moved not with speed but with silence. The 2 flanking purifiers were disoriented, their systems screaming warnings about chemical agents. Trinity was on them before they could react. She wasn't using her energy blasts. She was fighting dirty just as Joy had taught her. She used her Sidonian strength to disable one, and her rifle not as a gun but as a club, to shatter the other's pure armored shell. Only Mace was left. He stood in the center of the room, turning, his blades extended. He realized the trick. He saw the generator and the human Joy standing beside it, feeding it, keeping it alive. The An-Am, Mace choked, his own internal filters clearly failing. It corrupted you. Taught you to defile. He lunged through the smoke, not at Trinity but at Joy. The source must be cleansed. Joy fumbled, activating the shield packet. A small, shimmering field flickered to life. Mace's blade struck it, and the shield died in a shower of sparks, the force throwing Joy back. The generator sputtered, the fuel line shaken loose. The smoke began to thin. Mace raised his blade for the killing blow. Joy, with no powers, no training, no time, looked the purifier in the eye. He was on the floor, defenseless. His name was Kaelen. Joy choked out, a defiant last stand. My name is Joy, and we are done running. And as he said it, he acted. Not as a warrior, not as a hero, but as a human. He scrambled, grabbing a heavy, greasy crowbar that had been left by the generator. Mace's blade descended. Joy didn't block. He shoved the primitive piece of forged iron into the purifier's energy blade, jamming it right at the emitter. It was an act of pure, insane human audacity. The effect was instantaneous. Advanced alien technology met crude analog iron. The energy blade couldn't cut it. It shorted. The energy feedback loop was catastrophic. The purifier's arm exploded in a shower of sparks and metal. The creature shrieked, a sound of pain and surprise. The distraction was all Trinity needed. She leaped onto the purifier's back, jamming her own particle blade into its exposed, unshielded spine. Mace froze, shuddered, and collapsed. Silence. The bunker was on fire. The generator was dead. The air was still thick but clearing. Joy was on the ground, his ears ringing, staring at the crowbar in his hand. Trinity grabbed him, her expression one of utter, terrifying awe. She hauled him to his feet. The shaft. Let's go. She pulled him, half-dragging, to the emergency exit. They burst out into the pre-dawn light of the open desert, collapsing onto the cool sand, coughing, gagging, and breathing in the clean, cold air. Joy looked at the echo stone in his hand. It was no longer pulsing. It was just glowing. A steady, warm, golden light. A fusion. He looked at Trinity. She was bruised, bleeding, and covered in soot. She was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. So what now? Joy asked, his voice raw. Trinity looked back. But she wasn't looking at the ghost of Kaelen. She was looking at Joy, the 18-year-old human who had just saved her. The chaotic, primitive, brilliant survivor. Now, she said, offering him a hand up, we survive. Together. And that's our story for today. Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed Joy and Trinity's journey, please show your support by hitting that like button, sharing it with a friend, and subscribing to Dystopian HFY Stories for more. Don't forget to check out the other stories in our channel playlist. What did you think of this story? What would you like to see happen to them next? Let me know your suggestions in the comments below. We love hearing from you. Until next time, take care and all the best.